Hello, good morning, and welcome. I'm all over the place this morning. It's been some rough couple of weeks, days, whatever. Okay, so the question: has your child ever done something, maybe even asked you a simple question, something that's normal, like "Mommy, can I have more food?" and or they're crying over something, or they're expressing a certain emotion, and all of a sudden you can't handle it anymore. You want to escape the situation as fast as possible. You want to run away. I guess it's the same thing. um you kind of feel it, your body like changes. You might have like tunnel vision, sudden shame, your jaw might be tight, or you might have like tightness in the chest, or just feel like you're going to explode with anger, and you do, and you just like explode all over the place, and you're like, what the heck? um that's a normal question. My child is saying they need more food. Why did I react this way? So in today's episode, I'm going to actually unpack that and um show you how it could be past trauma inserting its ugly little head. I'm not going to say ugly little head, because honestly, it's a blessing to recognize this so that you can move forward. But I'm going to break it down and show you the difference between when your child triggers you and normal parenting overload, so you can know the difference, and uh, share my story of my experience with this and how to get on the other side of it, and just how to navigate through it. So, welcome to the podcast, the Mama with Trauma podcast. Yes, I'm renaming it. It was originally Messy Motherhood podcast, but last night I'll credit it to God giving me the idea, um, as I was thinking about this episode today. And Mama with Trauma phrase popped into my head, and I was like, oh, dude, that's such a better title name. So, um, I, uh, if you're new to the podcast, I'm Haley Ram, um, and I'm a mom with 5 kids, and I have uh, a lot of experience with trauma. I was raised in a very abusive home, and so navigating motherhood has been a difficult experience for a myriad of reasons. Um, but one of them being that children are excellent mirrors, and like marriage can do this for you too. Um, but children have a very, very unique uh, tendency to shine a light into the darkest and deepest spots of our hearts, our minds, and our souls. And if you're willing to listen to what they're showing you, you can vastly improve yourself. If you are willing to be a student, let your children be a teacher in a sense. And what I mean by that is sometimes they will, mirror back to you the things that you were saying to them. And when you hear something out of their mouth, you're like, oh my gosh, that's really horrible. Why would I say that? Where did you get that? And you're like, oh no, they got it from me. Um, or you find yourself in situations where you're like, I need to shut this down as fast as humanly possible because I'm freaked out right now, which seems strange because I'm the adult here, but suddenly I feel like a small child, and this other child is screaming at me, or just simply asking me a question, and I'm really angry all of a sudden. So I have I have gone through the process of recovering a lot of memories, waking up and realizing just how traumatic, the first 21 years of my life were. Um, and it motherhood has expanded the that healing experience in so many different ways. And I don't think I wouldn't be as advanced if I didn't have 5 little people going through a normal, healthy childhood and reflecting stuff back to me and making me aware of my own deficiencies, my own, you know, wounds, the breaks where in my thinking. And so I'm very grateful. I'm so grateful that I have had this opportunity. I'm so glad that I have accelerated. I feel like my healing journey has been accelerated because of the fact that I've had so many kids so close together. Um and yeah, it's I mean, with healing and everything and recognizing that you have trauma, a big thing that goes into that is being willing to submit yourself to the process. So when you get into it, it honestly resembles more closely to riding waves. You know, a wave comes and you're like, okay, we've got to ride this. Um, and I just had the realization the other day. As I was thinking, I was like, it's a lot like contractions in childbirth. Like the intense pain comes, and if you surrender to it and let it happen, it's a much smoother journey than when you resist the contraction and then you experience horrible pain and you feel like this is going to kill me. And so it's very much like riding the waves of contractions and realizing that with each wave of pain that you go through and endure, you are birthing a new you. Right? I'm in the process of birthing a new me. Um, so it can be a very, very difficult process. It's not easy, and it's really difficult to navigate when you have children, because we often have the fear of, "Oh my gosh, I don't wanna traumatize them, and I want to break the cycle." But in order to break the cycle, you have to first recognize that you've been traumatized, that there is a problem. So, for me, for example, yesterday, I, um it's been kind of in the back of my mind that I've just been aware of, that around lunchtime, around the middle of the day, when my children ask for food, I get a little irritated. And then the more they ask, the more just intense that feeling gets. And I'll get at first I thought, "Oh my gosh, I am a horrible mother because my child is simply asking for food," and I'll explode. Like, it's just, and it feels like the sky was clear, and then all of a sudden, storms upon us, thunder's cracking, and I'm being tossed and carried all over the place, and I don't even know what the heck just happened. And my children are like, I just asked for food. Like, what the heck is wrong with mom?" And, it's like, what was happening? So yesterday, I I actually put a pause on when I realized, my child was just asking for both a smoothie and food on her plate that seemed to be like asking for more, was like what really pushed me over the edge. And I know this sounds like, to a normal healthy person, this might sound like, "Oh my gosh, what the heck is wrong with you?" And to to be fair, like I've asked myself that question time and time and time and time again. Because I'm like, why is this bothering me? And those questions are very good to ask. Those are very helpful. So I'm realizing, okay, I've been triggered enough to know when it's happening, to know, to recognize the difference between just when I'm tired and when I'm being triggered. And I'm going to break that down. Before I move into the rest of the story, I'm going to break down how to know if something is a trigger. So, number one, your reaction will be bigger than the moment. Okay, so you can maybe ask yourself, and if you don't know what would a regulated version of me respond this intensely? If you don't have a regulated version of you, um, here's another question you can ask yourself. If another mother described this exact scenario, would I think her reaction makes sense? Like, does this seem reasonable? Does this seem like a reasonable reaction? And like triggers often feel urgent, catastrophic, loaded, like something very big is at stake. Obviously, for me, the request for more food was actually triggering fear, not just irritation. And that's not that's not reasonable. Why am I suddenly afraid of my kid asking for more food? So another way to know if it's a trigger is it's fast. It just appears out of nowhere. It's immediate. It almost seems like reflex. Um, and oftentimes you don't even have the words. It's you just have symptoms inside of your body. You can't even express. You're like, I don't know why I'm angry. So this happens because like when certain things go through your system, there's like different layers of your brain like it has to pass through before it can get to like the logical part. So then it this happens because the amygdala activates before the prefrontal cortex and the brain doesn't actually ask, is this actually dangerous? It asks, is this familiar? And if your brain's like, yeah, this is a familiar situation, you react before you can think. So another clue is your body changes. You have physical changes in your body. So triggers are often what's called somatic, where you have it's just simply you have symptoms inside your body. So you might notice heat in your chest or your face. You might have a tight jaw, sudden exhaustion, disassociation, or like you're in a fog, shaking, tunnel vision, the urge to escape or control the situation. You just got to get it under control, like right then. And then sudden shame. So, what's happening here is your autonomic nervous system is shifting states into going, um, wait a second, I'm back into that place where where this was first a problem for me. So, our bodies don't know the difference between time in especially when you have been traumatized, there's it's shifting states can happen very easily, and trying to, that's why reminding yourself, hey, I'm in the year, 2026, I'm not there anymore, can be a helpful way to calm yourself down. So if your body reacts before your logic does, it's another good sign it's an actual trigger. So a fourth thing is you feel younger. um Now this one is subtle, and it may take a second. It may take you some time to step back and uh, feel this, but it's a powerful one. So oftentimes, triggers come with a younger emotional state. So your reactions resemble that of a toddler or a child who doesn't have any emotional regulation or knows how to handle their emotions. You feel a sense of helplessness just crash over you, and you're like, what the heck? You can feel like you're failing, like you're in trouble, and like you can't handle this. So a good question you can ask yourself is, how old do I feel right now? And your body will give you the number. You'll have a number in your head. And it's just listen. When you can start listening to your own body, then you can start changing things, because you first have to connect with your system. Um, so yeah, if your answer isn't your current age, so I'm 30 and I was feeling like a little child. That's a pretty good clue. So another thing is there's shame attached. Um, so triggers often activate old core beliefs, and this is why they are so intense sometimes. So some of those core beliefs are I'm too much, I'm not enough, I'm failing, I'm selfish, I'm unsafe, there isn't enough. Um, and the shame can feel ancient. And that's because it is. It is an ancient shame that you've been carrying around. You're just now more aware of it in this moment. So the other way you can know if it's a trigger is if it repeats in a pattern. So this can take you some time to track. But if you notice certain explosions happening um, that feel like they're coming out of the blue, um, start paying attention to when it happens, what time it happens, which child it happens with, because sometimes when children reach a certain age, um, and especially an age that you were when that trauma happened, it can you're looking at a younger version of you, and oftentimes the body's like, "Hey, wait a second, we still feel like this person right now," um, and they're reminding us of something that hasn't been resolved, and we need you to resolve it. So you can push it aside, sure, but that's don't do that because don't ignore it because the longer you ignore it, the worse it's going to get. And there's just please believe me when I say there's hope and you don't have to live this way forever. Um, so track your patterns. Um, if something consistently sets you off, so it could be being interrupted, being asked for more. That was mine. Like, "Mommy, I want more food," and it was around the lunchtime. Like, my kids will ask me for more food at breakfast time, and I don't have the same reaction. I don't. Or at dinner. I don't have a similar reaction. It's mostly around lunchtime. So, other things that can be, triggers are loud crying, being ignored, being corrected, or someone needing you when you're tired. It's funny because, like, those are all the ones that I'm still working through. Um, so triggers are hardly ever random. Oh my gosh, they're hardly ever random. It's always pointing to something that you need to fix, you need to resolve. So another clue that it's just a trigger is you want it to stop immediately. You're like, I have to make this stop. I can't take this anymore. I need this to end now. And that there's a reason for that. That urgency mirrors a moment in your childhood where you truly could not tolerate what was happening because you had no power. So, a quick difference between irritation and a trigger is with an irritation, you're annoyed, but you're still steady, right? You're still thinking clearly and you can respond, appropriately, proportionately to what's happening. With a trigger, there's a distinct physiological shift. Emotion floods, reaction feels protective. You're like, I need to protect myself. And it's hard for you to access calm logic. And afterward, you may think, why the heck did I react like this? So that's a quick difference. So some questions you can ask yourself besides just tracking the pattern is what am I feeling right now? What is my body doing? What am I afraid of right now? Does this feel familiar from earlier in life? And if the fear feels older than the moment, you can bet your boots it's a trigger. Um, so just a quick, reminder, like everybody talks about, oh, I've been triggered, I've been triggered, I've been triggered. I'm not using this in a very flippant sense and the mainstream way that triggers have been commonly used. I'm using this in the sense of your body is having a reaction. Your mind isn't reacting to something that and you feel wrong. You feel a lot of what you might feel is shame. Like, I know I would just feel utter shame. I'd be like, oh, maybe these kids deserve such a better mother. And like all these like fears and like feelings of like self-hatred, self-doubt, like what am I even doing? I'm not qualified. Like they would all flood my system. And it's like obviously those are your kids. So you need to take care of them. They were given to you. They're gifts from God. He thought you were fit to take care of them. You were their mom for a reason. So those are lies, but pay attention to that because the more aware you are, the more you can really address this head on. So that was right, that was a big thing for me. So before I move on, I just want to quickly give some um like how to differentiate between a trauma trigger and normal parenting overwhelm. Just so we have that, you know, just just to clear that up in case you're still questioning. So, with normal parenting overload or overwhelm, um, they they come from triggers and trauma triggers and overwhelm come from different layers of the brain and the body. So, with normal overwhelm, it's just that's a stress load. You're tired, your blood sugar's low, you too many inputs, you just got too much going on, cognitive fatigue, and you've had no breaks. So, this primarily activates the sympathetic nervous system, your fight flight, due to current demand. And once you rest, eat, or get support, you regulate. And the story makes sense. Oh, I'm exhausted. With a trauma trigger, your nervous system reacts as if this is dangerous, even if logically it isn't, right? There's my kid asking for food was not dangerous. So the intensity is not just about current load, it carries what feels like a historical weight. So even after rest, a snack, or getting help, you may still feel activated, shaky, ashamed, emotional, and flooded because it wasn't just about today. It wasn't just about, the current moment. It's everything before that's never been dealt with. Um, so you can also ask yourself, um, how do I feel? Do I feel small, helpless, urgent, and cornered? That's a trauma trigger. With overwhelm, you just feel maxed out, but still like an adult. You're still oriented and you're still present. Um, so the meaning there's overwhelm says this is too much right now. A trauma trigger says I am too much. I'm failing. This always happens. I can't do this. There's not enough. I'm unsafe. So overwhelm attacks your capacity, triggers attack your identity. That's another huge difference there. Then you can look at the aftermath, right? With normal overwhelm, you can calm down, you can maybe apologize, you move on, and there's no deep emotional excavation needed. But after a trauma trigger, you may cry unexpectedly. You may have memories surface. Your body shakes, shame floods in, old scenes replay. Um, and you can gain that can be helpful because you can gain insight about your childhood. So triggers often unlock history. Overwhelm doesn't usually unlock memory. It's just, it's over. It's done. You don't keep dwelling on it. Um, so again, the repetition factor, right? You can track the patterns and sometimes it's just I'm hungry, right? Like, I've gotten angry because I was just hungry, and I've recognized that, though, and it's not the same kind of explosive, it's usually like, "Okay, I really know I need some food, and I haven't had any," and usually once I eat, I'm good, but this was totally different. In fact, I was like I had some feelings of shame around the food, and I was like, "I shouldn't even eat food, I don't deserve any food," like, those are ridiculous thoughts to have, right? But the 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 key is to not just push the questions aside. I am, again, like if you've listened to this podcast before, I'm all about lean into it. Don't just shove it away. Lean into it. Whatever comes up, whatever feelings, just lean into it so you can know. You can question it and you can resolve it. So sometimes sometimes it is both. Sometimes it's overwhelm and it is a trauma trigger. And that's where it gets difficult. But if you're just feeling all the things, then it's both. So then, take care of your needs first. That way that settles, everything down, and then you're just dealing with the trauma stuff. So, right, when you're feeling that explosive anger, a good thing to do is take a step back. Remove yourself from the situation so that you're not, continuing the cycle. And this is what people often call by breaking the cycle. Um, so a really stunning thing for me was when I started to understand I'm dealing with a memory here that's come to the surface, and I started shaking. And I was like, okay, um, my nervous system has been letting go of a lot of the way I felt during then, and it's been helpful, but it's also like a clear, like, okay, something's going on. So I'm just like shaking, and I was able to let my children know, hey, I'm processing something right now, um, and I it has to do with food. So then I'm remembering what I started to remember was I could hear my mother exploding. Like, I could hear her screaming. I was like, "She's screaming something." It was like I could only hear her screaming, but I couldn't hear distinctly what she said. And I felt younger, I felt small, I felt panicked, I felt just like, "I gotta get out of here, I'm not safe." Um, I could feel like, I was hungry before, and then my stomach tightened, I started to feel sick, and I'm like, "No longer hungry," and it's like, "Well, good, because I shouldn't need food anyway," and I was like, "Whoa, okay." Um, so then as I'm realizing this has to do with a lunch memory, I'm I was trying to explain that. I was trying to apologize to my daughters because they were, like, more specifically the ones I snapped at, and, um, I just explained, "Hey, my mama got angry with me, and it scared me, and I'm processing that." My daughter said, "You shouldn't act like your mom." And I was like, knife in the chest. But one thing one beautiful thing was she had told me, "You hurt our feelings." So that I love it when my children are able to tell me that because, right, as a child, I was never allowed to say that to my parents. And then I was able to just apologize and to make it right and to, I wasn't fully able to do everything then because I was still processing. So after I just like made sure they understood that I wasn't mad at them. All right. I was like, I'm not actually mad at you. All right. You guys did nothing wrong. So then I kind of stepped away. They'd gotten their food and everything they were eating. And then I'm trying to, I was talking to another sister and I was trying to, see if she remembered anything, just trying to, I was just processing while messaging. And like I'm hearing so then I came into, my office where my husband was because I'm just like I am like actively rattling at this point. I'm like so shaken and I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, something's happening." My body is trying to get me to remember. I'm remembering sitting around the table. So I'm like just trying to settle into it. I'm trying to pay attention because I've had enough of these to know that you just move with the wave. You can work through it. It can be done and I can move on with my life. And so I'm like hearing her, scream like I don't have time for this. And like the image I had is me sitting at the table. I could feel the bench, the big wooden bench that we had underneath my bum. And I remember just I started to feel small. I started to feel very scared. Um, and it was like I could see the entire scene from third person point of view, which is actually very common when you are recovering a traumatic memory. So it was like I could see the point of view from where I was sitting, but I could also see the whole scene. All the children were sitting around the table, were just asking for more food. And I could hear and feel my mother like quickly slamming cabinets, screaming at the top of her lungs. And she's just like, I don't have time for this. And there's no, I don't have anything to give you. And that was another distinct memory that I had was looking over, like hearing her say this and looking over at these white shelves that we had that were often, it was like our pantry. We lived in a very tiny house. And we were also rather poor. So at this point in time when I'm remembering this, we were going to a food bank every 2 weeks that we would get like a lot of a lot of food that helped us out. So I remember looking over at these like gallon buckets of wheat, grains, like I think we had like buckwheat and oats and just all of these resources that we technically had food over there. And I remember just this feeling of confusion washed over me. And I was like, wait, but that doesn't match what you're saying. And so that was distinct because a lot of times when parents will say something and it doesn't match what the situation actually is, it doesn't match the reality. Children are very, very astute at discerning those. They may not be able to vocalize it then. Sometimes they do, but when there is a cognitive dissonance between what the parent's saying and the reality, the child internalizes it and says, "I'm the problem." So my husband was starting to ask me like, what's going on? What are you feeling? So I'm like trying to vocalize, like verbalize all of this stuff. And I'm like, I feel like, I told him all of this. And then I said, there's this feeling like I just shouldn't eat. I feel ashamed for having needs. I feel ashamed for wanting food. And so he so I'm almost like rattling. And so he puts his arm or his hand on my arm and he's like, "Hey, do I need to make do you want me to make some can I make anything for my little sweet pea?" And like the second he said that, I started just sobbing. And I'm still that's still that moment still matters. Um because what happened in real time was he was helping to break that pattern of my needs are not important. I'm too much. I'm a burden. Like I struggle with that around my needs way too often. And that's not just about like my food needs, but it's around like any kind of need I have. Um, and so what he did was he actually broke he broke the pattern and interrupted what the neural pathway that my body had set into place years ago. And instead of feeling like my needs are too much, he reaffirmed, no, your needs are important and there's safety here. I can take care of you. You're not too much. And there's that is very, very, very important. And I understand that not everyone has, a husband who works from home who can be there with them when while they're processing. If you have that, I hope someone has that somewhere. um, so there's there's a lot of right. There's a lot of repair that needs to go in after going through this. But then also what really helped me was right after I'm like reliving this. Oh, the other thing that I remembered was after I had all the scenes play into my mind of still feeling hungry. And so I would go outside and hunt for sweet clover in the grass and look for berries or honeysuckle and eat that. Uh, And, the realization that, even though I was really hungry and my parent couldn't provide me what I needed, I was still resourceful. So acknowledging that I adapted to my situation, um I moved forward. I found a way to survive. I'm a survivor. And I'm not the only sibling who did that. I know there was, if over the course of years, like some siblings would go hunt um and get rabbits. So I just didn't have the ability to hunt for rabbits because at that age I was still very young. Um so then I'm asking, why did my I'm trying to figure out why my mother reacted that way because there's right, if you're dealing with the shame of feeling like it's your fault, it can help to try to make sense of the situation so you can understand that you as the child were not the problem. The responsibility in that situation fell on the adult. So I know my mother's history. I know that she was raised poor. And she would talk about how she would get home from school and she would eat mustard sandwiches. So I'm like, hey, wait a second. The way my mom exploded sounded like she was being triggered because it often felt like we were like sometimes you could feel the tension rise, and other times it would just be like, boom. Like, what the heck happened? What did I do? And the child would be left wondering, what the heck did I do wrong? Um, so I was like, "Oh my gosh, I think my mom was operating from being triggered because when we asked that question, she was being triggered from something in her childhood because she had a lack of food. And she was probably not getting her needs met either." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." A couple of other pieces, like when I got engaged, my husband made me some food and my mom just made some of the weirdest comments. She's like, "Don't expect that. That's not real life." That's She was just very, very negative about my husband making me food. And I'm like, oh, in this context, it makes sense. It makes complete and total sense now. So I had a new understanding. But then once I had that understanding, then I was able to, there was like a grief that kind of just, I was sad. And I was like, if that pops, that's normal for that to pop up because now you have to process the grief of what you didn't have at that time because it is, I believe it is every child's right to grow up in a normal, healthy home. We live in a fallen world. We live with broken people. Broken parents have children and then, break them. um, so it's a thing. It happens. But if you didn't have that, if you don't have that, then it's okay to grieve. It's okay to be sad about the fact that you didn't get that healthy childhood. You were not able to be a normal, healthy child. You were not able to have safe parents. And there's nothing wrong with being sad about it. Um, and it was like this, like all of a sudden I was like, wow, okay, so it wasn't my fault. I did nothing wrong. And like logically I knew that, but it was like my body and like my system could finally believe it. I could finally make the connection through mind, body, and spirit that that was not my fault. I did nothing wrong. Needing to be hungry and having someone get me food is normal, healthy, and my children asking me for food is normal, healthy, and okay too. And so this all happened pretty in a pretty quick succession. Now, this may not like I'm I'm a couple years into my journey. So it may not happen this fast for you. It can, but it may not happen. And if it doesn't happen quite this fast, that's okay. That is completely okay. These things take time, especially if you are not fully aware of what's going on. If you're not fully aware of your own history, of your parents' history. Um, so then once I was able to like I was like, "Okay, I feel okay now." And I felt calm and like all of that tension, all of the fear just completely melted away from my body and I quit shaking and I was like, "Okay, I could go get some food." Now I still have a little bit of like I remembered staring at this whole apple and being like, "I would be really selfish if I ate that entire thing." And I realized, "Oh, I don't like eating whole apples because it makes me feel guilty, but I'll eat apple slices, no problem." So I was like, "Oh, okay, that's another that makes sense now." So then I went to each child and I apologized, and was I said, "You did absolutely nothing wrong. You have every right to ask your mama for more food. You should ask for that. That is good. That is right. You are amazing." I'm going back in and repairing because most of parenting is repairing. It really is. There's connection, there's all of this, all of the other stuff, but a lot of it is if you know how to repair with your child, you can reestablish your relationship with them. And of course, my child was like, the one daughter, she was like, "It's okay, mommy." I'm like, "No, that wasn't okay. What happened was not okay, and you did not deserve that." Right? I'm like telling her all the things that, I would have needed to her hear as a child. But now I do get to hear it. I do get to hear it. Um, and I get to tell my child, it was very healing. And then something I noticed afterward was I was actually able to just be around my kids, and I'd been thinking back, I was like, "Oh, no," I realized I've been like, "Hey, kids, why don't you go play outside?" Like, if we're done with, like, schooling or we're done, with food and everything, I'm more comfortable with them playing outside, like, just playing. Like, that was uncomfortable for me, and I was like, "Oh, snap, I didn't even realize how much that was uncomfortable," but after processing all of this, I was able to sit with them and play with them and be with them and enjoy them and just notice how funny they are, how they resolve their problems, how each one is like hilariously unique in their own way. They're playing with these like poker chips and just coming up with their own things. And it was just so hilarious. And it felt like a gift. It was like, oh, I'm so blessed that I have 5 amazing blessings that I can enjoy. And I'm getting to that point in my, healing journey where I am able to actually be present um with them. So, yeah, I don't know if I have anything else I was going to share other than I hope this was helpful. I hope this was eye-opening. And um right, if you are a mama who's, you know, either trying to figure out why motherhood just isn't what it thought what you thought it was going to be, cuz or motherhood feels extra hard, cuz that was something like I was like, yeah, I know motherhood's hard, but it's like, geez, I didn't know if it's going to be this hard. And I think there's a language today where we're just trying to um dumb down the motherhood. Like a lot of the advice I see is just like, just settle, you're going to be a mess right now. And this is just how life is. But I would pose a different attitude. What if, what if it feels so hard and overwhelming because you're being constantly triggered? You're dragging around old wounds that are just interfering with a life that could be so beautiful, that could be so filled with joy, that could be so like you could be connected and you could be present in a way that you don't even know is possible. Like I've been disassociated as a mother and it's scary and I'm just like, well, you can feel like you're watching your children grow up from a distance. And it's like that's not normal, that's not healthy. And sometimes we just label it postpartum depression, and I had postpartum depression really bad in with my first, child, and I don't think I would have had that as much had I not been traumatized. I don't think I would have. Um, so yeah, so if you're trying to figure out all of this, um, stick around because this is the podcast for you. It's the Mama with Trauma podcast, and I'm definitely gonna be talking more about how to navigate what it looks like to try to be a mom who's dealing with her own trauma, and how to walk through that, and how to enjoy motherhood, because motherhood can be an incredible gift. It is so powerful. It is amazing. And what's more amazing is being able to give my children a childhood that I never got. And that is so healing. It is so amazing. And it's just a gift. So if this resonated with you, if you feel like this is something that, struck a chord, please drop a comment and let me know what's the phrase or the action that your kid does that triggers you. Um, and I know it can feel sometimes you're like, well, this seems like a stupid thing that I'm being triggered by. I just walked through how my kid asking for more food was a really big trigger. That's pretty stupid. That's pretty dumb. Sure. Sure. But don't stop telling yourself that and started acknowledging that there might be something more and that it's okay and that there's hope and that there is healing and you can be healed. Right? I'm not going to lie to you and be like, "Oh, you're not broken." It's like, "No, you might be broken." You might be broken, but that's okay cuz you can be healed. Um so, anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope this was illuminating. I hope this sheds some light on, you know, an area of your life where you've had questions and you just feel frustrated and stuck. And yeah, let me know if it was helpful. And like I said, drop your trigger phrase in the comments below. And I will see you in the next one. All right, have a great day.